Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Multiplayer, the podcast by Gamers for Gamers. I'm your host, Zach Matscanis, alongside Mr. Philly Fusion himself, Javier Ortiz.
Yeah, they play later today on the day that we're recording.
Yeah, trying to squeeze us in right before that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun match, playing the LA Gladiators.
Nice. So you're rooting for the Fusion boys?
Duh. And Mr. Philly Fusion. No, I'm voting. I'm rooting for the other team, actually.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
that's why they call me Mr. Philly Fusion.
They should. I mean, it should be like conflicting feelings for you. You know, it's like you live in LA now, but you were born in Philly. So I don't know.
Yeah, I like Philly more than LA.
All right. I see how it is.
Always ride or die, baby.
They come in, they got their like cheesesteaks in their hands,
and they punch the competition, literally.
They got Cheese Whiz like all over their keyboards and stuff,
and pretzels,
and
pretzels.
Yo, I wish we had like big dollar soft pretzels here,
dude. I wish the Philly Pretzel Factory had a location here.
That'd be nice. I just had a big nice soft pretzel the other day. It was
nice.
Incredible. It was a good time.
Love a good pretzel.
Pretzel show. I do too, man. Man, I love pretzels.
Yeah.
I was telling Jerry, I swear we'll get to the show in a second. I was telling Jerry the other day, it's like if I ever had like FU money, like I just had like money to just throw at nonsense, I would just have a pretzel guy.
Oh,
like,
dude.
He would just like live in my house and just bake pretzels all day. And I think it'd be hilarious if he even had like a little, he looks like a dude at like a ball game. He's like walking around just like, pretzels, get your pretzels. I'm like, yo, pretzel right now.
Just throw it to me. Yeah. I feel you. I would have the same thing.
It'd be people come over, it's like, yo, who's that? It's like, oh, that's my pretzel guy.
Oh, you don't have a pretzel guy? No, I have one.
It's like, does he bake other things? Does he cook for you? Like, no, he just makes pretzels.
It's like, what part of pretzel guy don't you understand? He's not cookie guy.
This guy solely makes pretzels and nothing else.
That's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. I think that'd be great. Just have this guy with like a big brick oven in the house. He's just
making pretzels all day.
Just all day.
Oh.
He's like, "Sir, can I please stop? My hands hurt from twisting dough."
Like,
no, keep going. Remember, everybody, that Multiplayer is all over the place, in your ears and in your face. You can find us over at youtube.com/multiplayer, where you can see me once again another tank top, because it is another warm day here in sunny California.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so I gotta stay a little light, so I'm not just sweating profusely through the show. And of course, you can find us over at Patreon at patreon.com/multiplayer, where you can support the show. You can let's see what else we got. We got podcast services. We got all sorts of podcast services. So go ahead, find a podcast service you like. That's how a lot of people like listening to the show. That they'll play it like going to work or at work,
during work,
after work, before work.
That's really all the time, really.
That's all the time you got. So, if you work, but you also listen to things.
If you work and want to be distracted.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead and check out Multiplayer over on your favorite podcast services. And of course, these episodes, they release every Wednesday. I remembered this week, Hav.
Nice.
Every Wednesday is when these go live. And, I just want to say at the top of the show as well, tell your friends, your cat, your grandma about the show. I just want to get the word out.
The more grandmas we can get to listen, the better.
Yeah, it's the number one demographic.
It really is. They find us adorable, and they bake us cookies.
And pretzels.
Oh, God, I wish.
Nothing like a good grandma pretzel. Anyways, Hav, I think we have a pretty good show today.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to talk a little bit about Deathloop. That just came out.
Ah, very nice.
We're going to get to that real soon here. I want to just mention, Kenna, Bridge of Spirits.
Yep.
Just for a moment. I want to get into a new game that I've invented in the last 5 minutes called Head to Head. And, basically just talking about different games and consoles and which ones we think are better than the others.
Sure.
There can only be one. Like Highlander. And then
there can be only one.
What did I say?
There can only be one.
Yeah, close enough.
Everyone always confuses that one.
There can only be 2. And then we debate until there's only 1. I think that's how the saying goes.
Fair enough.
And then, we'll jump into a little You Nintendo Don't Know Jack. So, it's going to be a fun show today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. So first off, hey, Hav, how's it going? What's
Not
up,
too
dude?
bad, man. How have you been?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Very nice.
Been playing a little Deathloop.
Ooh.
But before I get into that, what you been playing?
Dude, let me tell you what I've been playing.
Lay it on.
When my options, I can get like Deathloop, I could get Kena, Bridge of Spirits, Returnal's still out there. I haven't played that one yet. Let me tell you the game I've been playing. Sonic Colors Ultimate.
Ooh,
That's the
snap.
game that I've been playing. And let me tell you, man, it's still not that good of a Sonic game. I'm sorry. Like, I know you told me before that, like, oh, this one came out on the Wii, and actually people really like this one. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Man, it's still, like, there are just things about it. I'm like, come on, man. You got, like, why isn't this should be better.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Like, to this day, I don't care. Like, look, you're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion's wrong if you think that Sonic is a good series. There are moments in every Sonic game that are pretty decent.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, all of those games are sort of broken in their own ways.
Yeah.
They're always fighting against themselves because it's like you have a character that needs to go fast, but everything tries to get in your path and stop you.
Yeah.
And it's just frustrating.
Yeah, and Sonic Colors, there are a lot of times where you feel like you're moving fast, and it's great, and it's like, oh, this is awesome, and it transitions from like platformer to that kind of free running kind of like mobile-y kind of game where you're just on a path and you just go left, right, and those moments are great because it balances out, right? It's like, all right, I do some platforming, and then all of a sudden I'm going really fast and I'm just dodging stuff, and it's fun. But one of the problems that Sonic Colors has is that they did a really good job at making very pretty worlds. One of my favorite ones is called Starlight Carnival, where you're in space and it's very colorful, and you're like running through like a galaxy of like spaceships, and there's like pretty stars and lots of colors, and it looks kind of Rainbow Road-ish from Mario Kart, and it's very pretty, and it's like, wow, this is a beautiful. What I'm looking at is really beautiful. But the issue is, and it happens a lot in this game, where the camera suddenly goes like super wide. And so you're watching like a landscape of color and just things happening in the background, and you're like, whoa, this is great. But then you lose track of Sonic because he's this little blue dot on your screen, and it's hard to keep track of him when there's so much happening that doesn't have to do with what you're doing, right? It looks cool, but it's just like, I kind of lost where I was, and now I've fallen off the map, or I've hit something, I lost all my rings, so it's there's something about that where it just kind of throws you off, and you're just like, I just need you to dial it in, and I need to focus on Sonic, right? And to this day, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle has the perfect Sonic game, and that's the first level in that game, City Escape. That is the perfect Sonic game ever made, or at least 3D Sonic game, right? Just that one stage is a perfect Sonic game because you go fast, you do a little bit of platforming, you can battle some enemies, but you can blow through it in like a minute if you're really good, and like it feels smooth, right? And that's still to this day like the perfect Sonic game, just that one level. And I don't understand what, because you have the same people making these games. It's Sonic Team and Sega, and it's like, take those elements and do that, right? Like that first stage is great because it's narrow and you're focused on Sonic, and it's still pretty because you're like running through the city and you're trying to escape, and you can look at like buildings and like trolleys and stuff running by, but it's focused on you. It's like you're going through an alley. Whereas Sonic Colors is big, and you kind of lose track of Sonic, especially in levels that are super colorful because you're just a little blue dot on the screen. And then there's an issue with your running, where you run, and in every single Sonic game I've ever played, when you run and you want to stop and turn, he breaks on the edge of his heels, and he goes like, and then he turns. But in this game, he doesn't do that. He just kind of stops. He runs, and then he slows, and then he turns. And you feel like really heavy, and it just doesn't feel right. It feels like it doesn't feel smooth, and it's just like, it's missing that stop and turn. You know, it without that, it kind of throws off the feeling of like you're in control.
Yeah.
It's just it's not bad, right? The game overall, it's fun. Definitely better than recent Sonic games. But you know, it's like, man, I know it's a remake and you like update a little bit of it, but the cutscenes still look meh. It still looks like you're watching a 480p cutscene just kind of blown up.
Right.
But other than that, you know, it's not bad. I would give it like a solid like 7. Like it's okay. Like it really is. It's definitely playable. It's by no means, at least the PS4 version. And that's the other thing. There's not an optimized PS5/Xbox Series X version. Like it's just,
and it probably won't be.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that this came out and it's like, oh, it's a PS4 game. It's like, really? You can't optimize it a little? So like there are moments where, you know, the whole game's like you change different forms with these alien things. I forget what they're called. But like there are moments where like frame rate drops a little. I'm like, this isn't like super optimized for like a modern gen. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
you played on Switch?
No, PS5.
PS5.
Because I was reading that the Switch version is super broken. Like there are
kind of mixed results there.
Yeah, so I was gonna get on the Switch, but I was like, I already know it's not gonna be that great because it's a Sonic game. So at least let me play the version that's less broken. And the PS5, you know, I've been playing it. It's totally fine. Yeah, I mean it's a totally fine game. I just wish that they would be like, you know what? City Escape. That is the blueprint now. And let's focus on that and build a game based on that one level and just make a game out of that. But
I also think the very first level in the first Sonic Adventure is also really good. It's
that's also like a City Escapey kind of style. Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that Sonic is just it's one of those series where it's just like they have this, this mascot character. He's been around for a long time. He got popular because of marketing, and it's just like, but the concept of this character, I don't think, it at least hasn't been figured out in the way that it should. And to this day, I'll say this till the end of time: like, let the Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey team make a 3D Sonic game. They would do it right. Like, give them 5 years.
Yeah.
To just build a Sonic 3D game from the ground up, because first of all, to this day, Sonic Team has not figured out how to work a 3D camera. To this day,
in City Escape, it was good. Yeah. In City Escape, just that's what I'm saying. That one level is a perfect Sonic game. It is. It's a perfect Sonic game. And then after that and before that, it's just not that good.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where they always like they have good ideas and there's like sprinkles of really good moments in all the games, but then it seems like every game they kind of just start from scratch again. Or it's just like, all right, well, we tried that, it didn't work. We did the werewolf, we did he's got a sword in this one. Let's try this now. It's like no, just make a good 3D Sonic game.
Yeah,
just make a good boil it down to the bare essentials of what you need to make a good Sonic game, and then just make that. Yeah. The best parts about something like Mario Galaxy and Mario Odyssey in those games is like you're in a world where you could take your time and you could do stuff, but like once you figure out that world, and it's kind of the same thing with like Mario 64 and stuff, where it's like once you've figured out that level, and you could just fly through it. I mean, you're just doing backflips, you're doing somersaults, you're doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, and
a game like Mario Galaxy, I mean, that camera's just glued to you, and it's flawless. It's perfect. You're running around these like planets and stuff with this like perfect camera on your back.
Yep.
And you're launching through like stars, and it's awesome. It's so good, and I wish they would just take that as their blueprint and make a 3D Sonic game where it's like that camera's just like glued to you. And nothing should feel annoying. It's like you should just be like running through these levels, and you should basically never have a reason to stop. I would say like the only reason you would stop is if like there's a secret path and you're like, oh, I missed that, and you stop and then you go get it, and then you go on a different path. Like that's really it. And there are elements of that in Sonic Colors. It's just
overall, it's like they do things that kind of work, and then they just kind of they don't perfect it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, man, if you had just spent a little more time, like the free, the free runner mobile style aspect, where you're just on a straight path and you just left, right, center. Man, if you were to perfect that, it'd be great, because then, you know, you can kind of go wide, but you're not worried about like seeing other things, because you know you're on a set path and you're literally just hitting left or right. You know, if expand on that, it'd be great. But you know, maybe someday they'll get it. But overall, like
Maybe
you know,
one day.
either way, they got me for another $40. So they
You're doing
figured
something right.
Yeah, exactly. Like they figured out. It's only because when I was a kid, I loved playing Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 on the GameCube. It's the only reason why I'm still playing Sonic games.
Yeah. And by that you enjoyed playing the first level in
Yes,
these games.
yes, very, very much. And the Chow Garden. I love the Chow Garden. Like
that part's great.
yeah, it's like, do you want a mini RPG in your Sonic game? It's like, I didn't think I did, but now I do.
See what they should do. With basically, once again, give it to the Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey team. Have them make a 3D game, but then have a component with like maybe it's a QR code or something where like there's an app on your phone for the Chow Garden, and you can like import that into your game.
Yeah,
and you know,
that'd be great.
Some cool stuff in there. You know, because the Chow Garden's great, and I feel like they haven't done anything with that in a very long time. So it's like make that like an app. Like a game on your phone, like a Tamagotchi.
Man, if they did, that'd be so cool. I would download that in a heartbeat, man. I love the Chow Garden when I played it on the GameCube. Like, man, that was one of my favorite things about that game, because then you just replay levels looking for specific like capsules to build specific stats. Yeah. And man, it was just like, oh, it was so cool. And like, you know, they changed their shape of their heads to look like whoever's petting them the most, and just man, it was such a good little mini game in that game.
But also a mini game within a mini game. You also have on the Dreamcast, you can pull out the memory card and you basically have a Tamagotchi, you know, which is like super rad.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was a great marketing idea, and just a good idea, because like you kind of have a toy as well with your video game system. It's like, oh, cool. So maybe someday they'll return to form. But man, Sonic Colors, it's definitely an okay game. That's really all I got to say about it. Yeah. I can go more, but wait, this isn't the Sonic show.
Yeah, as it shouldn't be. So yeah, let me talk about what I've been playing, which I think is a lot more than an okay game. It's a terrific game. So I've been playing Deathloop, which I think I mentioned last week on the show, if I'm not mistaken. It's been getting stellar reviews across the board.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, a few critics basically gave it a perfect score, and everything else has been like incredibly high. You know, Metacritic I think is like 90% or so. Can't say the same for the user reviews, but you know, people just bomb that stuff because like, oh, it, you know, crashed on my PC. Zero.
Sure. yeah, I heard that it was having performance issues on PC.
Yeah. So, you know, first off, PC players get good. Get a PS5. I'm just kidding. There's definitely some technical issues on PC. I actually I experienced just a couple weird things with the PS5 version where I had one game crash, and then I had like some weird stuttering at a couple points, but other than that, it ran pretty smooth. And I think that's all just like patchwork, you know, that'll all be ironed out in the next, you know, few months, I would say. But, you know, overall, man, that game is exactly what I wanted.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's exactly what I wanted. So, you know, for the people out there that, you know, have been under a rock, you know, Deathloop is basically the next game from Arcane, you know, the people that did Dishonored, the Dishonored series. And this is essentially Dishonored. Like, if you didn't like Dishonored, this game's not for you. I'm like, disclaimer right at the front. If you did not like Dishonored, like the gameplay of Dishonored, then this game is not for you. Because this is like, it's one of those things where it's a stealth game, but also you can just go in guns blazing, and you got wacky tools and powers and a bunch of nonsense, and you're
Nice.
basically trying to assassinate people. And you know, the big difference between the two is like Dishonored's in this weird almost like a Victorian era England kind of place, but you know, in a fictional land, and with like weird magic powers and all that kind of stuff. This is like, you know, very kind of retro style, like, you know, 1960s like era, just all sorts of like wacky decor. I mean, the art style is fantastic in this game, and yeah, it's very different tone. You know, this one's very silly. Like the game knows exactly like what it's trying to be. You know, I think the best part about this game is the writing and the voice acting are like top notch, stellar. Like the main character Colt and the protagonist Juliana is, or no, antagonist, excuse me, Juliana, who's basically trying to stop you from like breaking this time loop that you're stuck in on this wacky island full of like people just partying. You know, I mean, the voice acting is just so stellar. Like, I mean, that was in the first 5 minutes of that game, you're like, oh, this is special just because of the voice acting.
Nice.
You know,
that's awesome.
Just, you know, they're goofy. They have like so many great like little one-liners and like little shots at one another, because you're basically talking to each other over like walkie-talkies like the whole game, and she's like talking trash at you and you're talking trash back, and yeah, it's just like such a awesome game. And you know, if you played Dishonored, a lot of the magic abilities are kind of very similar, where it's you have like a blink ability where you can essentially like teleport short distances.
Right.
You got like double jumps and stuff. You've got you know, cloaking abilities. You have like telekinesis where you can just like throw people around. All sorts of like wacky things. So, you know, all that's fun. All of those feel great. My favorite magic of ability is I keep forgetting the actual name of these. I just call it like the link ability, where essentially if there's like multiple enemies standing in a close proximity to one another, you can essentially link them all together by you know, you just like throw out this little magic power. It links them all together, where like if you shoot one, they all get affected by it.
Huh.
So, you know, if there's like 5 people standing in a courtyard, you know, that's a tough fight. But if I link them all together and then just like leap from the top of a building and stab a dude to death, all 5 of those people are now stabbed to death.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Okay. I was imagining like you shoot a bullet and it just like magically hits all of them. Like it just goes through all of them.
So yeah, you can essentially shoot people too. So like if I shot somebody in the face, like I do this a lot with this like little nail gun that I have, which is like a silent weapon in that game, where if there's like a bunch of people in a courtyard, and it's like, oh man, that's gonna be tough to kind of get around that. Let me see if I can take them all out. So I'll link them all together and then just shoot one person with the nail gun, like right in the face, which just kills all of them.
Nice.
So it's like, that's pretty sweet.
Is there like a in like Dishonored, is it like a hub world and then different levels, or
yeah
oh, it is like that?
Yeah, it's set up very similar. You essentially have these like tunnels underneath this like island that you kind of use, and the game is broken up into 4 different like areas you can go. So it's like all these like little small kind of sandboxes essentially. So you have these like 4 zones you can go to, and you can only go to one of them at a time. So it's and the game essentially, it's so like, it's complicated to explain, but it makes sense as soon as you start playing it.
Sure.
Essentially the loop is a 24-hour loop, but you're not timed. Like once you go into like a map, you can spend as long as you want in there, but you can only go to like one segment of this map in 4 different parts of the day. So there's morning, noon, afternoon, and evening. And that's like the 4 time periods. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to go to this one part of the map in the morning. So you go there in the morning and you're like investigating, you're trying to find clues, you're killing some people. And then when you leave that, now it's noon and you'll go to like another part of the map. And then, kill some people, you leave that part of the map. Now it's the afternoon. So on and so on. And you have to essentially kill these 7 people within a day before the reset. But all of these people are in like different parts of the map at different times of the day. So you have to figure out how to get all of them in the same areas within a day to kill them all. So it's like Is
it like procedurally generated at all, or
no? So there's basically, since it's a loop of the same day and everybody's living the same day over and over, they always have the same patterns.
It's Majora's Mask-y kind of.
Yeah, but you can change that pattern with like your actions during the day. So like you'll have a scientist who's in a certain place because he like made some grand discovery, and like in the evening, and it's just like, well, if I want to deter him from that discovery, let me like break his equipment in the morning. So then he's just like, well, I can't invent now, so I'm gonna go do this other thing instead. So
that's
it's
cool.
Like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So the whole game, you're really just like trying to gather clues and information. That's like your best weapon. It's just information,
right?
And you're trying to figure out how to get these people kind of in the same areas at certain parts of the day to kill them, so you can break the loop. So
man, I love the idea of a game where it's like things are happening at this time at this place, right? But if you do this, that changes, or if you do something over here, then that impacts what happens over there. That kind of like cause and effect kind of thing. Like it's. I just remember experiencing something like that in Mega Man X, where it's like if you beat a level, then another level kind of changes. I love that kind of stuff where it's like doing one thing at a certain time impacts this other place at a different time. And if it affects the story and stuff, that's so cool. Because that's a lot to keep track of too.
It is. And, the game does a really good job of like, I don't want to say holding your hand, but they make it so you're not confused.
Right, you don't get lost.
Yeah, it's like they do a really good job with the storytelling throughout to kind of keep you like understanding what's going on, and it does a really good job of like keeping you aware of all the clues and information you've sort of gathered over the
right
all the time that you've put into the game. So yeah, I mean, it's great for all that, but Mega Man's actually a great comparison, where it's like, just imagine essentially a Mega Man game or a Mega Man X game where it's just like you have all these bosses you have to defeat. And when you defeat those bosses, you actually gain new abilities, because all these bosses, all these, they're called visionaries in the game. All these visionaries have these different magic powers called slabs. So, killing them, you can obtain their slabs, which gives you different abilities, like the teleport move or the link move, all that stuff. So, yeah, imagine a Mega Man game in a loop, essentially, in a time loop, where if you don't defeat all those Mega Man bosses within that 24-hour period, you have to reset and do it.
Man, I love that. It's like when you break it down to its bare essentials, it's beat a boss, get their weapon, find the next boss to beat with that. Are bosses like weak to other bosses' weapons or magic that you get?
No, it's
because I was gonna say like that's basically just Mega Man at that point.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. Very much in an arcane style. The game is designed like, I mean, they're just masters of game design over at Arcane. Like, I love these guys because they basically just give you all the tools and they challenge you to break their game. Essentially, they're
nice.
Like, I mean, you're basically doing double jump teleport moves onto like rooftops, and at the beginning of the game, I'm kind of creeping around, just like trying to, walk up and stab people. But by the end of that game, I'm just flying through these levels,
Nice.
Sonic style. Like, once you've mastered like each of the maps, then it's just like, okay, I know where to go. I know what I need to do.
Right.
I'm gonna take this, these guns, these powers, and you're just like flying through these levels doing stuff.
Do enemies like do the same? Like, do they like follow the same path? Like, if you're redoing a part of like a level multiple times, right? Yeah. Are the enemies always doing the same thing? So you can kind of like eventually it just becomes like repetition, where it's like you exactly. understand the patterns.
Yeah,
man, that's awesome.
Now
it's like a arcade game.
Yeah, exactly. So each level, like I said, there's 4 levels, and there's also 4 different times of the day: morning, afternoon, noon, evening.
Right.
Now each map has different enemies, enemy routes, weather conditions, all that stuff for 4 different times of the day. So you can go to like one part of the map in 4 different times of the day, and the enemies are different. Their routes are different. The quote unquote Mega Man bosses are different.
Right.
If they're there at all. So yeah, depending on the time of day, the map changes a lot. So it's basically knowing all 4 of these like little sandbox levels, but also knowing all 4 times of the day as well. So you can kind of master like, okay, I know these people are going to be here at this time,
right?
These things, and like it's the gamified design of this is like so fantastic. Like it knows it's a video game, and it took those video game quirks, like knowing an enemy's like marching route, essentially security route, and making it an actual like story mechanic, game mechanic, where it's just like, okay, I know this person's going to be walking back and forth because I've lived this day 1,000 times.
Right.
And so that part's pretty cool. And it's fascinating. It's a super cool game. I really enjoyed my time with it. I just finished it yesterday. I'm probably going to go back and play some more because it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And there's also a multiplayer mechanic, which is kind of interesting. Essentially, the antagonist, Juliana, she'll come into your game and try and kill you. And so you can set it up where you're just playing offline and there's like a CPU Juliana running around trying to kill you, or you can play online where actual people can come into your game and try and kill you, which adds like
that's like
another,
like Bloodborne-y kind of Dark Souls-y.
Exactly. So it's like that, but instead of trying to help you, they're trying to kill you.
That's interesting. That's an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, it adds such a interesting element because you'll go through this game knowing exactly where everything is, once you get far enough into the game. But once you add in just an actual human being trying to kill you,
right,
and they have powers and crazy guns and stuff too, it adds this element where like somebody's basically coming to mess with your game now. And if you're not good enough, they're going to screw up your loop and you're going to have to start your day over.
Right.
So it gets real intense. It's like palm sweaty, mom spaghetti style. Just like,
when the day resets, do you like lose anything? I don't know if there's like ammunition or I don't know. Like,
so
I'm imagining Majora's Mask, when you reset time, you lose everything. You lose all your money, your inventory items.
So there's an element in the game called Residium, and it's something you collect when you kill the Mega Man bosses, which is what I'm referring to them now, or a Juliana, or just like random fragments that you'll find throughout the game. And with that Residium, you can essentially lock in certain weapons and stuff that you can keep. Same thing with powers and stuff. It's essentially like a point system where it's like, I'm going to use or a currency. I'm going to use this Residium.
You trade it in to keep your stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not like a roguelike where, every time you reset everything, if there's like a weapon you love, you get to keep that weapon if you have the Residium to lock it in, which is like, you end up if you're killing a lot of things, you'll have a good amount of Residium. So it's not like a full on reset. It's like you'll keep those weapons and stuff. Which
it's funny. It's kind of like I keep making Zelda comparisons, like A Link Between Worlds. Like in that game, you're renting all your weapons and your items. You can buy everything, but the moment you die, it's like it's all gone.
Yeah. So there's things that'll reset. And there's weapons you can and powers and stuff you can keep if you have the points to trade in for it. So and you end up with some cool weapons and powers and stuff you definitely want to keep. My favorite ended up being these dual pistols that you could also literally connect into one another to make an SMG, and that thing is just freaking dope.
That's like Arkham Knight. What's his name? The Arkham Knight did that. Like he had 2 dual pistols, and like he magically combined them, and it became like a sniper rifle. Like that doesn't make any sense, but sure, why not?
Yeah. So it's a really fun game.
Nice.
I would say my one complaint would be I just want more of it. Actually, I have 2 complaints. First complaint is I just want more of that game. I wish there was like maybe 2 more maps.
I'm sure there'll be some DLC.
Yeah, maybe. I think it'd be pretty easy to implement. And then my other critique is just I wish the AI was a little smarter. They are a little on the dumb side.
That's gonna be the Zach complaint for generations.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things. I love a good, strong, smart AI.
Yeah.
And this AI is like kind of dumb, and I think it's on purpose. Like none of these people, they're not like military people or anything. They all have guns, but they're all they're on this like island of party. So, you just get these these people talking. Like if you kill a dude and another dude like walks over and sees that, he's just like, oh, that ain't good.
And just turns around.
And then he's just like, he'll like look for you for a minute, and then he's just like, oh wait, what was I doing? So they're like dancing and like doing all sorts of weird stuff.
Just having a good time.
Yeah, they're just they're basically all like on drugs, and it's they're just having a good time, and then you come along and kill them all.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun video game.
Nice. That's awesome. And sorry, just add a little bit more. I also finished what you were just saying reminds me. I just finished the Iki Island DLC for Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh.
And a lot of that I was also thinking, man, this AI is so dumb. Like you can sneak through so much of the game where they're just like, there he is, and like 10 seconds later they're like, whatever. Yeah. And you're just done. But yeah, I just to add on to what we've been playing, I finished that DLC. It's awesome. One thing I really love about it, Sony cross-company cooperation. You can get a Bloodborne style suit, a God of War style, and a Shadow of the Colossus style armor sets, and it's really awesome. Like I put on the Bloodborne one, I was like, oh my god, this is so freaking cool. Like I just like, it is such a cool outfit, the Bloodborne style suit you get to wear. So that was awesome. Iki Island DLC is super fun. Just for those 3 like different costumes alone, or the suits alone, like makes it so good. But yeah, AI, oof, man, they're so dumb in these games.
I wish, I think games like Last of Us Part 2 did a great job with the AI. I wish people would. I bet it's really hard. I bet it's really hard to make smart AI. I bet that's like such a complicated thing, but that's the one thing. Like graphics are fine now. It's like just work on AI at this point.
Yeah,
give
it's
me
true.
Really good AI. If somebody if you're like a soldier standing next to another soldier, and one of those soldiers gets shot in the face, and you're like, whoa, what just happened?
Back to my post.
Must be the wind.
Yeah.
That shot that guy in the face.
Yep.
It's just like, come on. It's 2021 at the moment. We basically live in the future. Let's have the AI not think a bullet to the face is the wind anymore. Yeah,
it's very true. Very true.
But anyways, let's move on. We chatted about Sonic and Deathloop for a while there. So I want to really dig into this head-to-head topic. So I'm just going to mention real quick, Kenna Bridge of Spirits is basically out today, the day we're recording, September 21st. It's been getting really fantastic reviews, and I'm super excited to try it out.
Next on my list. I can't wait.
Yeah, so I think we'll have more to talk about with that next week. So I'm gonna try and pick that up and play it over the next few days if I can find the time. So let's go ahead and move on. So basically, I have a new game for us to play, and it's like part game, part debate, part conversation. We'll see how it goes. As I think I mentioned last week, we barely plan these shows. I'm a terrible host.
Don't give him a peek behind the curtain.
I just wanted to know what to expect, but I think this is the first time we're trying this little game that we're about to play. So we're gonna kind of feel out the rules as we go, and we'll see how it goes. I think this will be fun, and I'd like to make this a reoccurring thing that we do on the show. So I'm calling it head to head, and basically the idea is we take two different games or consoles or controllers, and we basically have a conversation / debate about which is superior out of the two.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about the Super Nintendo and the N64 lately, because both of them basically have anniversaries. This month in the US, Japan releases, give or take a few months there, but
we're not in Japan.
We're not in Japan. We're in the United States. So
USA.
Philly Fusion. But yeah, Super Nintendo came out September 9th of 91 in the US, and N64 came out September 26th of 1996. So 30 years old and 25 years old. Basically there's some old people now, those consoles. They probably have kids, married now, or really getting into whatever their careers are. So I've been thinking about those consoles a lot, and basically I wanted to kind of open up this conversation about which is the better console. And that's such a just a wide question.
Which child do you love more?
But basically, I want to go through a couple games in the series that are on those two consoles, and then we can talk about the consoles themselves. So first off, I want to get into Super Mario World versus Mario 64. These two giant games. Which of these two games is the better game? And I'm kind of thinking about all this in a few different aspects, where it's when they came out, and what they kind of did for the industry, and then its everlasting effect. So it's kind of like a combination of those things. So it's you can throw some nostalgia in there. You can think about when those games were released, and also the the lasting effect of these games.
The fact that you can to this day still say that Super Mario 64 is the greatest 3D Mario game ever made stands a pretty tall argument for Super Mario 64, because again, to this day you can make that argument that it is the best 3D Mario game ever made, and there have been a lot of good ones.
Yeah, when you think about, just Mario games as a whole, there's so many stellar Mario games. Outside of maybe Sunshine.
Dude, Sunshine
and Mario 2, but
just like the GameCube is underappreciated, Sunshine is so much fun. It's so much fun. I had fun with it. It's so much fun, dude.
But yeah, so Super Mario World basically came out. Basically, both these games came out with their consoles.
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing. Right off the bat, you have two of the best Mario games ever made.
Yep.
On as launch games for these consoles.
Back to back.
So, Super Mario World, obviously you're coming off of the NES, which had just regular Super Mario. I'm not counting Mario Bros. 2. And then
you should.
and then Super Mario Bros. 3, which I think is the best 2D Mario game in my opinion. But Yeah, I mean, so kind of going into Super Mario World, I mean, it's already a tall order.
For sure. Here's one of the most, I was thinking about this the other day. The thing that makes Super Mario World so significant, right? One, they introduce Yoshi, and everybody loves Yoshi, right?
Everybody loves Yoshi.
But besides that, besides the game, besides anything in the game, besides playing it, besides what the game is like, it introduced something to the world that I don't think had been done yet that early in video game history, where Mario, by that time, is basically the mascot of video games, right?
Yep.
And still is to this day. That was the first time where, maybe not the first time, but definitely I think wider, like it drew a big mainstream audience, because it was the first time where it was like, here's the next big Mario game, but you need to get a different console. You need the Super Nintendo, not just the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And back then, people, there are a lot of parents, who are just like, video games, whatever. You get the Nintendo for your kid, they got the Nintendo. But now there's a new Nintendo, and you need the new Nintendo to play the new Super Mario. It's like, well, this Nintendo company just wants money. They just want more money from us. They made a new device. And with a new Mario game, it's like, why can't I play it on the old Nintendo, right? And I think back then it's in that, and still to this day, a lot of people think that way, but it's like, processing power, like computer technology, it advances, but people are like, well, I got the Nintendo. Why can't I just play this new Mario game on the Nintendo I have, right? Yeah. And I think that's something that, I don't want to say changed the video game industry. Maybe it did, but it's like, that's the first time that I can think of is like, wow, new console, same IP, but new game for the new console. And it's like, you want this new game? Look how cool it looks. You need this new console, which is beefier and better than the previous one.
Yeah. It's a good point. It's something where it's, now everybody is in the habit of like every year buying a new iPhone.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But yeah, back then it's very different. You would have a TV for 40 years. You'd have a refrigerator for 60 years. It's like things didn't break.
Yeah. Dude, so my parents had the same like Zenith big CRT television for like half my life.
Yeah. But I gotta say, I feel like Mario 64, you could almost make the same argument where it's just like, hey, this is like the future now. It's like, and it kind of made an argument
3D.
It kind of made the best argument for 3D gaming. It's like, 3D's the future, and here it is. And I mean, at the time, Mario 64, like when I first played Super Mario World, I thought it was a good game, but I didn't find it revolutionary. I actually thought Super Mario Bros. 3 was doing a lot more than Super Mario World, but Mario 64 felt like a revolution. Like it felt like night and day difference. Like this is what the future of video games is. This is like, it was in a whole league of its own. It was, and nobody had done anything like that game. It's just, it's one of those things like, Saturn and PlayStation were already out, but they did not have 3D games like Mario 64.
No, because you think of like Spyro and Crash, the Sony mascots, right, for the PlayStation, but those 3D games were nowhere near on the level of like platforming ability that Super Mario 64 offered.
Yeah.
Right? Like they were platformers and they were fun and they had funky characters with attitude, with fun marketing campaigns, but Mario 64, you felt almost like a parkour version of what it should be, right? Like the fact that you can like do a triple jump, that's never been a thing before. It's like, what? I can triple jump, I can wall jump. It's like there's so many, like a long jump, just jumping. Like that's why it's called Jumpman, right? Like the amount of different jumping that you got in Super Mario 64 is unlike any other.
Yeah, and I think that you could really find the DNA and just about any 3D platformer after Mario 64. You can almost like just attribute it to, Mario 64. It's just like...
Yeah. That's why, and you could do the same thing with like Ocarina of Time, right? Like you can draw lines, like those two games like became the building blocks, the foundation of basically every 3D game after that, where it's like you take inspiration from there.
I want to get to that in a second, but final thoughts. Which do you think is the better of the games? Mario World, Mario 64.
My heart wants to say Mario World because that was my first Mario game. Because I grew up with a SNES. It's still my favorite console of all time. But I think in terms of what it did for the industry, in terms of platforming ability, in terms of feeling like, again, just parkour free running style, it's 64. Like, it has to be. You can make a game. They made a game people called I think it's called the Green Demon Challenge or something, where you make a game out of getting the green mushroom that follows you, of like finishing the level before it reaches you. And that's all about timing and jumping and like how good you are at maneuvering in that world. And that's the one thing about Super Mario 64 that's so great, is like the same way that you can spend hours swinging around in the new Spider-Man PS4 games, you felt like that for Mario 64, where you could spend hours just running and jumping. Like, I could clear this path so easily. Watch me do it.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, to this day, has a very, very strong speedrunning community.
Yeah, I mean, extremely.
That's how good that game is.
Yeah.
And, so I want to move on to the next one. I don't know if I'll get to all this today, but maybe we can keep this going, basically like next episode and so on and so on.
Sure.
But let's see how far we can get with these. So the next one, you already mentioned Ocarina. So Link to the Past versus Ocarina of Time. I know, right?
It's tough.
That's a tough one.
It's tough. It's tough because they're so similar but so different at the same time.
Yeah.
But
I'd say Link to the Past really, I think a lot more than the original Legend of Zelda game, really kind of set the bar for what every Legend of Zelda game would be after that until Breath of the Wild. Like, everything's there, from the types of dungeons and puzzles to the weapons that you're getting, to like to the type of storytelling, the way that the game is just sort of set up with exploration. You can really, like, Ocarina of Time, I don't think would be what it is without Link to the Past.
It's funny, right? Because Ocarina of Time and so many Zelda games draw their DNA from A Link to the Past until you get to Breath of the Wild, which is basically the first Zelda game. Because the first Zelda game is the epitome of open world, just like Breath of the Wild. Whereas Link to the Past and Ocarina, open world-ish, but you're on a set path. You can't go anywhere you want. There are things that block you and say, no, you need to do this first. Whereas the first Zelda game and Breath of the Wild, you can literally go wherever you want. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes those so great. But this is Link to the Past versus Ocarina of Time. So, I think, man, that's tough. They both have elements of the world flipping, the world changing, dark world mode. They both have different style skins that Link gets throughout the games. However, the one thing I really love about Link to the Past more than Ocarina is that in Link to the Past, you're able to upgrade items in a secret way, right? Like, you have to find it. Like, that there's a fairy fountain where you throw your stuff in there and she's like, did you drop this? And you can say yes or no, and it's kind of funny. And then she'll improve certain items. That's how you get like the better shield. I think a better boomerang is another one. And a few others. I can't remember them all. But like, I love that aspect of it because that felt, like there were secrets to be discovered. And I don't think Ocarina of Time has that as much. I think things that you get are based around the story, and you're going to get them regardless. You're not going to improve I'm just going to use the boomerang just because it's the only one I can think of. You're not going to improve that one. It is what it is. And I think only young Link can use it. I don't think older Link can use it. But A Link to the Past also introduced the hookshot, which is the best weapon in that game because that thing can like kill anything from far away, from any distance. That's tough, man. I don't know which one I prefer more.
Here's where my head's at. My gut goes with Ocarina of Time because of the feels I got from that game.
Sure.
Like, I think that game kind of set the bar for storytelling, And they hardly even had to use words, you know. It's just one of those things where it's like,
Yeah.
the adventure they took you on in that game, you know, the story that they told in that game, while kind of simple in nature, I think they just did such a stellar job with it. And, you know, you starting as this, like, you know, this child, this like kind of sad child, and you go on this adventure, and poop hits the fan, and then you become an adult.
Yeah.
The world gets dark, very, very dark, and like, I mean, from start to finish of that game, it's like you really feel like you're on just such an epic adventure. And then by the end, with like, once you defeat, you know, the final boss, and the like final moment with like you and Princess Zelda, like everything from start to finish, like it was such a strong story. And I think like before that game, I don't think there was a story that, you know, at least for me personally, never made me feel the way that game made me feel. And I think kind of set the bar for storytelling in video games, because up until that point, that outside of like excuse me, some outside of like some RPGs, like
I was gonna say a lot of the RPGs on the Super Nintendo have really interesting stories. I wouldn't cut that short.
No, and you know, I think there's a strong argument for those too, but it's when you looked at something like Ocarina of Time in a 3D world telling a story, it suddenly felt like a movie. It felt like it felt like something. You know, I would make the argument that even the greatest story in an RPG on the Super Nintendo, like Earthbound or Chrono Trigger or one of those, like it's still like, if you're just some Joe Schmo, you're gonna be like, well, that's just a video game. But like when Ocarina of Time came out, like,
right, because it's in 3D.
Like, yeah, you know, it just felt like something so different and special. And so that's why like my pick would go towards Ocarina of Time.
It also had adult Link who had earrings. And when I was a kid, I was like, man, that's cool. Like, this is
so cool.
He's an adult. He's got earrings. He's got attitude. It's just like, man, I want to be like that when I'm like 16 or 18, however old he is. Yeah, it's tough, man. Like my heart leans towards Link to the Past, because that was my first Zelda game, and I can replay that game to this day, and I love it so much. You know, that game, and I think that game is just as dramatic, honestly. It starts out with like the death of your uncle, and you have to save the princess, and he tells it, and his dying words are like, save her, here's my sword and shield. So you have to save the princess. And now you're thrust into this journey, this adventure. And there's also side stories that I think are really sad. Like the one that really affected me, one that when I was a kid, I was like, I don't like this. Like, I feel really sad. There's a mini, like a side quest in that game where I forget who it is, but this dude is like asking about his son who got lost in like either the Dark World or the Lost Woods. I forget. But like, you eventually get the ocarina, or the flute, I think is what they call it in the game. And you play it, and he appears, and he's like one with the forest now, and like he's at peace, and he becomes like a tree stump, and it's like he died, and it's like, oh my god, this father's never gonna see his son again. And I don't know why, but as a kid, that really stuck out to me. I was like, okay, I think that was like the first, like, your uncle dies at the beginning, and I get that, like, but that to me, that's like, you know, Simba's dad has to die for him to go on this journey, right? Like that felt like you've seen that before in stories and movies and stuff. But like this one was like a side character where it's usually like the hero can help solve the problem. And this was that first time I felt where like the hero can't solve that problem. This kid dies and you can't do anything about it. And like you go back to the father or whoever it is, and they just say the same thing where it's like, man, I wonder where my son is. Like he loved to play music or whatever. And it's just like, man, it's like this dude's never going to see him again. And that, like, to me as a kid, I was like, holy crap, that really just, I don't know why it affected me so much, but I was like, man, this is like, I guess because it's like, it's the problem you can't solve, or it's, you know?
That's actually, that's kind of how I felt with Ocarina of Time, where when you become an adult and then you can start to go back and forth between child and adult, it's one of those things where it's like, as a child, I just want to go up to all the characters and be like, yo, things are about to get real bad. Like, get out of town kind of thing. But it's one of those things that's like, you can't stop the inevitable.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just going to happen. And you just have to deal with that. And you could kind of fix it later.
Yeah.
But like, that sad, bad stuff's going to happen regardless of what you do.
Plus, it's like Ocarina of Time also has like, when the story ends, it's like you have to give up the Master Sword, which I forget how the timelines work, but it's like it's not a happy ending kind of thing. It's like you have to give it up in order to save the world, but you only save one timeline, not the other. It's I forget how it goes down, but it's confusing, but it's tough, man. It really is. I like, my heart will always go to Link to the Past because that is my first love, when it comes to Zelda. But I mean, Ocarina of Time is like, it's like this, right? It's like Ocarina, Link to the Past. It is, and it honestly can change day to day. Next week, I'd be like, you know what? I feel like I like Ocarina more.
Well, my vote's with Ocarina. Looks like you're a Link to the Past man.
Yeah.
Okay, both are stellar games.
Yeah.
Both, I think, especially as a kid, like, those games are just like, incredible. It's just like, I mean, the stories they tell are just so incredible.
A Link to the Past made me feel like I was in this massive world, and I like it felt bigger than it actually was, right? Especially when they flip it and you're in the dark world. And I was like, oh my god, there's so much to do. There's so many people. There's so many places to go and save, and like, so. And then but the only thing about Ocarina that I didn't like compared to Link to the Past was Ocarina. I felt slow. Even when I was younger, I felt like, man, it is taking me a long time to get to places.
But then it just felt so vast. Like
it did.
The world just felt freaking huge. Like you could just run for days and days.
It did. But the thing that I didn't like about that was that even on horse, when I'm traveling through Hyrule Field, it's big, but it's empty.
Sure.
There's nothing there. Like you get the I forget what they're called, the zombie guys who pop up at night.
Those jerks.
But that's it. Yeah. And you can outrun them. So it's like, I always felt like, man, it's taken me a really long time to get to Death Mountain or to get to the Zora's Domain. But Link to the Past, I felt like you could move, and it is smaller, so it's easier to move around. But it also looks different because you're going from board to board to board, and they all look different. It's not like Hyrule Field where it's like, all right, grass, some trees, there's the castle. Yeah, there's the mountain over there, so I'm gonna go in that direction. And it's just like, it felt big, but it felt empty. And even as a kid, I thought that.
It's 64 megabytes of RAM.
I know.
Download.
I'm just saying, when I was a kid, that's how I felt.
I know. I feel you there. Well, cool. So, I think that was a lot of fun. There's a few more I'd like to get to, but we're basically out of time, so I'm going to save them for next week. But I want to get into controllers, which is the better controller. I want to get into what's overall the better console. So there's going to be a lot to talk about next week as we continue to celebrate these anniversaries. How on earth is the SNES 30 years old and N64 25?
Dude,
Jesus,
it's nuts, man.
I'm over here dying of old age. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking about all of that next week.
For sure.
And same thing with we'll get back to You Nintendo Don't Know Jack here soon. But that is our show. We are out of time. It was still a lot of fun. I think we covered some good ground.
Yeah.
Talked about some fun games. Talked about Sonic, I guess.
Dude, Sonic Colors. It is such an okay game. I can't say much more than that.
I can tell you one thing. Ocarina of Time better than Sonic Colors.
I would have to agree.
I
would say most Zelda games are better than Sonic Colors.
Anyways, that is our show, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another fun week of talking about video games. Remember that you can follow us at youtube.com/multiplayer, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Same thing. If you enjoy what we do, check out patreon.com/multiplayer where you can, support the show, kick us like $1 or $2 a month. It really just goes to helping us keep the lights on and continue to do what we do. You can also find us at Instagram at GoMultiplayered, where, we try and post some silly things. I need to get in a better habit of posting more. I will keep trying, everybody, I promise. And you can find me personally at ZachMatzGanis. That's ZachMatzGanis. Hav, where can we find you?
You can also find me on Instagram, where I usually post pictures of my dog.
Sure do.
At loverboy_Hav.
Oh, yeah. I think you need to change link the dog's Instagram to at Hambone.
Hambone. He's just one big old hambone.
Just one big hambone. For the people out there that don't know this, all Shiba Inus, they just have one big bone that runs through their whole body, and that's it. They don't have leg bones or like a skull. They just have one big ham bone.
And speaking of Shiba Inu, one of our segments that we cut out from today had to do with the Shiba. Favorite cutscenes.
Ooh. Yeah. I want to do favorite cutscenes soon, so that'll be in an upcoming episode as well. I've got some fun ones for us to talk about there.
Me too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for another week. And, that's it. That's the show.
All right.
Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week. And, of course, remember
that we love you, and you should love you too.
We love you, baby. See you next week. Peace.
Go get a pretzel.
Oh, I want a pretzel so bad. We here at Multiplayer would like to give a huge special thank you to Kevin Hopkins, William Euchre, and the rest of our amazing Patreon community. If you'd like to support our podcast and get a shout out at the end of each show, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/multiplayer. See you next time, players. We love ya!